NASCAR is considering hosting a race inside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Also, the street race could be moving to San Diego, California. Let's talk about NASCAR's upcoming schedule rumors. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dirty Air. I'm your host, Alex Lambert, and we have a lot of interesting things to talk about today as far as NASCAR moving forward, how the schedule could potentially look in years to come. San Diego street race looks very possible. Also, now some talks about racing inside of Philadelphia at Franklin Field, inside of the city limits of Philadelphia. That certainly would be exciting and interesting story to follow. And let's go ahead and get right on into it. Speaking of racetracks and race venues, it is important to note that Iowa Speedway has sold out grandstand tickets for the second consecutive year. Their second race, once again, they had their inaugural race a year ago, first race ever in the Cup Series in Iowa a year ago, sold out, and of course will sell out again this year. Once again, that's one of those tracks on the lower side of seating capacity. I believe it's under 40,000 seats, but still, nonetheless, impressive to sell out those race tickets. A big deal, a big event. Iowa has certainly, about just outside of the Des Moines area, has certainly embraced the NASCAR Cup Series, and that's always great to see different areas of the country, different regions of the country selling a lot of tickets, and of course a lot of race fans being able to celebrate NASCAR closer to their area. Speaking of that, Pennsylvania, San Diego, let's talk about it. Some interesting news came out, a bit of a surprising story, I guess to say. Heading this weekend, NASCAR goes to Pocono Raceway for what they're expecting to be at least maybe potentially a third sellout in a row for Pocono Raceway. Once again, they've sold out the last 2 years, looking to sell out for 3 in a row, have sold all camping sites the last 5 years, so that's certainly exciting for Pocono. Pennsylvania certainly has a large racing fan base. It seems like they're starting to embrace NASCAR itself a little bit more. Some interesting comments from Steve O'Donnell this week. If you look at Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, there's a huge hardcore short track market with a lot of fans who love racing in general and have become NASCAR fans. It's grassroots racing, and that kind of goes underappreciated, but the fans show up in droves. So certainly, once again, those local short tracks on Saturday night, those Northeast fans are certainly big short track racing fans. It'll be interesting to see if you can kind of transport them into NASCAR fans. And also, you have those big races up north. I think in New Hampshire, Pocono sells out a lot of tickets every year. Certainly, those racetracks are big deals for those fans up north, and that cannot go unappreciated. Pocono has delivered for us in terms of fans. When we look at opportunities out of places we've looked was Franklin Field, O'Donnell said. This was one of the only places we could have put a racetrack inside, and those are the types of things within a city that we're looking at. So once again, this for me screams clash. This for me screams that quarter-mile clash race. We've done it at the Coliseum in LA those first 3 years, did it at Bowman Gray before the season started this year, and then of course it looks like they are looking at doing it at Franklin Field, so home of the University of Pennsylvania. And I think it would be interesting to see. I have not been the biggest fan of the quarter-mile racing, and I think that's just because I like the higher speeds, right? I mean, I do like the short tracks because it's a part of NASCAR traditionally, but I always love the Michigan, the Daytona, Talladega, those high-speed ovals, Atlanta, back before they restricted the engines. I've always loved those types of racetracks, the higher-speed ovals, so maybe that's why I'm not entirely thrilled about the quarter-mile racetrack. And this track might be a little bit bigger than the previous 2 we've ran at, but certainly it would be an interesting market to implement a race at. Now, once again, the only concern would be getting rid of Pocono. I don't think NASCAR is even considering doing that. They seem to be very well respected with Pocono Raceway. Even though NASCAR does not own Pocono Raceway, it seems like that racetrack should have at least one secure date for years to come. Some more comments from Steve O'Donnell. The days of just building a rural track are over, but if we can build a track with some real estate development around it and partner it with some people, we're going to look at major cities and bringing the product to the fan base within the city as well. So that to me sounds like potentially developing a racetrack moving forward. Building a racetrack within a city just doesn't seem very possible at the moment. Maybe some of these northern cities would embrace it moving forward. I look at short track, I look at tracks like Richmond, that's basically within the city, not too far from the downtown area. But other than a few racetracks I can think of, Talladega, Darlington, Martinsville, all these tracks I've been to are in very rural areas. Those loud, big racetracks that take up a lot of space are certainly, I don't know if they would be welcomed into a city, especially a big city like Philadelphia. So you certainly would have to build potentially a short track or something of that nature. But certainly Franklin Field, potentially racing there, exciting. It's a new market, I would say, in the city of Philadelphia. would be a new market. It would be interesting to see how that goes. Once again, all these talks are in the very early stages. So even if they're talking about moving the Clash there, I don't even know if it would be next year with the way things are looking right now. Very early stages of this development. We'll continue to watch and see how this goes moving forward. Just thought it was some interesting comments by Steve O'Donnell as we head into the Pocono race weekend this weekend. And it certainly looks like a large amount of fans, once again, be at the Pocono Raceway. Another interesting storyline, San Diego. So we're talking about new venues. NASCAR has hosted the street race at Chicago in the Chicago Grant Park area for the last 3 years. This will be the third year of that race and probably the final year of that Chicago street race. I think Chicago's actually really embraced that event. That's exciting to see. Looks like NASCAR could potentially be moving that street race over to San Diego, right? So don't have an entire idea what the track layout would look like or how the logistics of this would work, but that looks to be a very realistic possibility moving forward of where the street race would go. So we would continue to have one street race on the schedule. I think that's great. It looks like it does very well. It does good on TV. The fans, at least in Chicago, embrace the idea. So hopefully if they do move it to San Diego, SoCal, that would also be embraced by those fans in California. And I think it very well could be. A street race seems to be taken very serious, where I think the Clash, a non-points exhibition race inside of a football stadium, maybe wasn't taken so seriously from the LA crowd or the Southern California crowd. At least after a couple of years, that event certainly tended to dwindle away a little bit. Not a big fan favorite racetrack for those fans out there in LA. Didn't sell a whole lot of tickets the last couple of seasons at all. So, of course, one of those races being moved up a year, but certainly interesting there. It's interesting. I think if we have the one street race a year, that would be great. I think if NASCAR is going to try to continue to do this Clash event at a quarter-mile racetrack, you could potentially do it at other venues, right? You could move to bigger cities. This kind of allows NASCAR to go into those big venues that they couldn't otherwise for, like a big racetrack, like a Talladega, like a Darlington, or something of that nature to sort of get their brand, get their product out there. And once again, like you mentioned, the Northeast certainly loves their short track racing. That is no secret, and that should be appreciated. But that's really it. All I want to talk about today on Dirty Air. Let me know what you think. Do you think it's a good thing that NASCAR is exploring these opportunities to go into a city like that, potentially for a Clash or potentially building a racetrack in Philadelphia? Certainly, I think it's important that we still take care of our fans in Pocono, and also San Diego, going back to Southern California, since they've gotten rid of the Auto Club Speedway, that is no longer there. Would a street race in San Diego be a good idea to bring NASCAR into SoCal? But once again, that's it. That's all there's to talk about. Like and subscribe if you like the video. And of course, let's get rowdy.